Let the insults and sarcasm begin. You're listening to Raw Mike Richards, heard only on News Talk Saga 960.
Leafs are changing on the fly. Bruins turn the puck over. Here's Tavares. He shoots. He scores. On a night of turnovers, Tavares takes one, puts it in the back of the net, and the Maple Leafs have cut the lead.
Well, certainly there was excitement when that happened. Coach Frank going to join us on a segment we call 10-Minute Misconduct. What happens in the offseason? First, his theme song, Umberto Tozzi.
He's Coach Frank. People say this, Coach Frank. People say pasta, the hero, que cazzo, mel testo. He's Coach Frank. People say this, Coach Frank.
That's what they say. Yeah, people say a lot of things. Beautiful song. Beautiful theme song. And now, in the sadness of the Leaf fallout, we go to Frank DeJoia. Coach Frank. Good morning, Frank.
Morning, guys. How's it going?
Yeah, you don't sound good.
No.
You sound mad.
I'm trying to put on a good face, I swear.
Yeah, I know. This is so we in evaluation of what this season was and the progression that they make. So the coach seemed pretty impassioned that they're a better team this year when they were last year. How much better were they?
I guess, trying to put myself in his shoes, I guess you're not going to sit at a press conference and be negative, right? So, judging by the organizational depth they have, especially up front, I think they do have some good depth down to Marlies, and that shows with the record. Marlies have been great the last couple of years. I think what shows a good team and an evolving team like the Blackhawks do during their run was you're able to bring up more pieces from your farm team on entry-level deals that can really take over spots in your bottom six, and I think they got guys like that coming up. So from a depth standpoint, I think they are better from last year, no doubt. Adding guys like Tavares, and you see the evolution of Johnson and Kapanen. You're going to have to pay them, but they are, I think, deeper up front. Time will tell on the back end. But we'll see, right? It's Kyle Dubas' job to get that all sorted out.
Well, when you start talking about the back end, to me, it's sort of obvious what you need on D. But if we're going like right up the middle, and they talk about what the power 8, the power 9, that you kind of need to be successful. Mm-hmm. For Freddie Anderson, is there some point where there's an acknowledgement that maybe he's not the goaltender that's going to win you a championship? So does that mean he moves in the offseason? Are you looking? Where are you with the goaltending with the Leafs?
No, absolutely not. I think, listen, if it wasn't for him, I personally, I don't even think they make the playoffs, to be quite honest with you. Looking at his contract, I know we were all scratching his head when he gets traded from Anaheim and signs that deal for a 5-year deal with $5 million. And we're like, well, this guy hasn't even, put a jersey on yet. And I think he's come along in the 3 years he's been here. I think, Dave, and I think Dave will get this reference, but for me right now, Freddie Anderson is in that Evgeny Nabokov category. Great regular season goalie, but really can't get it done in the playoffs. I think time will tell with that. I think he's still. I'm willing to give him another year. I think he had a great year, Vezina Canada up until March, but Bruce Cassidy made an interesting comment last night, saying that they really got a lot from Tuukka Rask because they attribute that to giving him a lot of rest during the season and having a capable backup. So Rask and Halak are kind of the 1A, 1B. Leafs don't have that. That is a must next season. And being up against a salary cap, trying to find a guy who's going to be in that $750,000 to $800,000 range to do that's going to be tough. Is it Hutchison? Time will tell, but I sure as hell won't be Sparks. So that'll be interesting in the offseason.
You know what? I'll upgrade what you said about him, about Evgeny Nabokov. I think he's better than that. I look at this as a very good regular season. I look at his playoff being very good until Game 6. But yesterday, Frank, goals 1 and 3 cannot go in. They simply cannot go in, and I think that was the difference in the hockey game. I looked at this game and I saw the Leafs dominate a second period. I thought they were into it, back and forth in the first. I know Boston established themselves early in this one, but when you're sitting there and then all of a sudden Boston scores that first goal from such a bad angle, it's like, good God, you got to stop that. And then in the third period, when the fourth liner comes down the wing and lets a meaningless wrist shot, I mean, you want to throw stuff at the TV at that time, because the guy's coming up with 5 Bell saves during the series, and then he lets in that junk in the most important game of the year.
No, that's fair. I think I don't think you'll find anybody that said that first one shouldn't go in. That's just inexcusable. I'll even go even further back. Again, I don't want to criticize, but he had a chance to stop the play. He put the puck down for Dermott to get the puck out. They try to stretch the ice, turnover back, in the net. So that really started and ended with Freddie Andersen on that one. The third one, again, without really being on the ice, from what I can tell, Riley backed him up too far, giving Crowley the shot. From another angle, it looked like it may have ramped up on Riley's stick to go high, but at the same time, too, in a one-goal game, you're pressing for a goal. It can't go in. So there's no excuse here. Game 7s, you got to bring your best. And at the other end of the ice, Tuukka Rask was unbelievable. And that just goes with experience. And when a goalie needs to win you a game, Rask did that for Boston.
So the one thing, and I know I've been harping on this with this show, and I know we've talked about this personally, but when I see Austin Matthews' name with the number 1848 beside his name, and I see Mitch Marner just under 21 minutes. I see some of the key players that aren't hitting the 23s and 24s. As far as time on ice, I shake my head, and I shake my head at Patrick Marleau being on the ice in the late third period of many of these games. And for the life of me, some of the decision process, even yesterday, I saw William Nylander get double shifted before John Tavares and Austin Matthews on a number of occasions, and I sit there and I go,
yeah, I don't get that.
I understand, and I'll fully admit, Mike Babcock obviously knows more than most of society in hockey, but oh, for the love of God, shouldn't this be, kindergarten-like to understand that you play 34 until the guy can no longer walk in a Game 7, but that simply wasn't the case yesterday?
I have absolutely no response to try to figure out what he was thinking in a span of, hey, let me play my best player who scored 5 goals this playoffs, 18 minutes. Again, I don't hate Mike Babcock, so it's not me here really, kind of lynching him, but it's inexcusable. I can't figure out why. To be quite honest with you, you look at a guy who has a hot stick, regardless of who it is, you want him on the ice as much as possible. The fact that, looking at other teams, even time on ice as well, looking at other Game 7 or elimination games from other series, fourth line players are only playing, max 5 minutes. Gauthier was up near the 10-minute mark. You take 4 minutes away, that gets allocated to Matthews. It's just, it's to me, it's hockey 101. But again, that's why he's paid the big bucks, and that's why we're breaking the game down. So he must have known something. I don't know. I was racking my brain because I knew this question was going to come up, and I still can't come up with an answer. All I know is that he better be looking at flights to Phoenix, because he better be on a plane next week trying to figure this one out with him again, because I know that
seems to be an annual thing
last year. But so that's. I honestly, I don't have an answer.
Well, to me, this combination of the cap world that we live in and who stays and who goes. And I think we talked about Kapanen earlier this morning, and, some of the money that they're going to ask for, Tyler Ennis, does he get, a contract that's more substantial? Because they got some great play out of him. In fact, there were times, Dave, I think that, he was one of their better players on the ice, better players during the moments of that series, and that probably shouldn't happen from your $650,000 guy. But they did get that kind of return. But I think they're going to have some math issues, as all teams do in this league. But at some point, in order to get that next level, I still think you have to make a move that will not be an easy one. And if that is the case, of the bigger names that would get a return? Because that's, you kind of have to look at it real estate. It's great that you have a $10 million house. Would someone else pay $11 million for your house? Like, who is that piece that you could possibly get some stuff back for that they actually would move? Who's that player for you?
Yeah, that's a good point. I was doing this yesterday, kind of, it's funny how you're already looking to the off season, but you're looking at the depth chart and kind of the news out there that they're heavily active in the KHL. Apparently they're close to bringing over two fairly young, high scoring KHL players, forwards, surprisingly enough. And if you alluded to the comment that Babcock said in his presser last night, he says they got some big boys coming that'll make them bigger next year. Well, you look at the Marlies; they're not really a big team, so that could mean from outside, the NHL. So that kind of says, well, now you're in the numbers game. So obviously, there's only 12 spots, and supposedly 16 NHL forwards. So something's got to give here. So if you're going to improve the back end, and you make a good point about Tyler Ennis, he's priced himself out of the Leafs. To be quite honest with you, you put up 13 to 15 goals, you're not going to re-sign for $700,000. So I think a guy who probably can bring back some value. Unfortunately, the number one target is probably Nylander, right? What can he? The funny thing is, even if you try to trade him in the offseason, the season that he had, are you really maximizing your value with him? Are you trading him at his lowest point? Then you got to look at a guy like Kadri, who's on a great contract, who can step into a number two center role, which he's done in the past years. Can that be your guy to maybe bring back a top four defenseman? Because you're probably not going to bring back Jake Gardiner. So the obvious one is Nylander, but for me, you're probably maximizing value with a guy like Nazem Kadri.
Hey, Frankie, thanks so much for this morning. Appreciate it. I know there's some sadness in the household today, but that's why they made grappa.
Limoncello, let me tell you.
Limoncello, that's right. Yeah, a nice breakfast drink, too. Hey,
absolutely. Vitamin C and everything.
Absolutely. Hey, Frankie, you take care. Say hi to the family for me. We'll see you soon.
Will do. Thanks, boys. Have a great day.
You just got your morning drive back. Raw Mike Richards on News Talk Saga 960 with traffic on the fives, featuring the best and most detailed West End traffic in the GTA. Raw Mike Richards and traffic on the fives, exclusively on News Talk Saga 960.